live?
Yes,
we're
live.
Hello all, welcome to the Brave Sound Podcast. This is a special show. This is a repeat of our first guest that we had featured on the show. So we would like to welcome Joe Giordano. First, let me back up a moment and talk about the show for a second. This is the show where we uncover the stories, processes, and worldviews from some of New York City's most creative and artful musicians. So, Joe Giordano, welcome to the show. Joe will be having a concert with us this Sunday at 3 p.m. in this exact apartment, actually. He's going to bring his super awesome group. We reposted one of his videos he made for one of his rehearsals. I'm really digging the music, and I'm super excited to come check it out on Sunday. A little bit more about Joe before we begin. In 2020, he won the J.J. Johnson International Trombone Competition. He was Young Artist finalist in 2018, and he currently attends the Manhattan School of Music. And he's going to perform with us on Sunday. So, welcome, Joe.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's fun
Yeah.
to do this again. It was fun the first time. It's going to be more fun this time.
Definitely excited to have you back and talk more about music,
Yeah, absolutely.
your influences and stuff. So just tell me about your upbringing. What got you into the trombone to begin with?
Yeah, I think my first influence was my dad. My dad, Marc Giordano, is a trombonist. He's a teacher, and he was instrumental in getting me to have a real love for music. So he showed me, even before he showed me the trombone when I was, I guess 8 or 9, he was always playing, Miles Davis records. Kind of Blue was one of the first records that I heard. He was playing JJ records, Curtis records in the house. So there was a lot going on. There was a lot in my ears from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really thankful for it. My mom was also a music teacher, and she did a lot for me as well, just in terms of piano. We had a piano in my house growing up, and she was always, driving me to lessons and that kind of thing, making sure I was practicing. I think my parents were the two biggest influences that I had growing up.
Yeah, well, that's very special, and it's funny. Yeah, I was just reading this book actually about Paul McCartney and his young life, and he said also his father was a big influence onto him, teaching him vocal harmonies from a very young age.
That's great. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah. I feel like music, in a lot of ways, can be passed down from your parents and it can run in the families a lot. Or some people can just pick it up and start and just find they're really passionate about it as well.
Definitely, yeah. Well, it's always special when there's a bit of a lineage. You know what I mean? It's always special to have, for me anyway. It's always special to see what my dad did, what my dad does with music, what my mom does with music, and it just brings me even closer to them and closer to the music.
Yeah, so. And you also have really special ears, right?
Special. Some people say that. I just try to listen all the time to everything going on, and go from there.
Yeah. No, I know. But perfect pitch, I'm talking about do you think that had any influence from being listening keenly at a really young age, or do you think it was just a chance thing?
I think it could have. I kind of found out that I had this ability to find pitch. I guess kind of when I was in middle school sometime.
Oh wow.
We were doing I was in choir at the time, and
you have singing experience too in school.
Yeah, a little bit. I guess I sang in choir really from middle school, high school, all through then.
Wow.
Not so much now. Now I just sing when I'm writing music or whatever. But
yeah.
I found out about this pitch thing. I think in 7th or 8th grade, something like that. We were singing a cappella, and our teacher, like in an effort to prepare us for like this competition that we were doing, was like, okay, we're gonna be doing this a cappella. Let's start right here. Let's start on key. She played a pitch on the piano, and she was like, all right, I'm not gonna play the piano this time. You're just gonna do it, all yourself. It's like actually a cappella. And she was like, oh God, I hope we stay on key. And everyone in the group was, oh, I hope we stay on key. And I was just sitting there like, yo, what? What are we talking about? Like,
that's funny.
It made no sense to me. I had no idea that there was even a possibility that we would, come off or something like that.
Because you were so used to like oh, like this is just how it is. Like
just
like,
picking out the pitches.
How can I go off from it? Yeah.
Exactly. So we sing, we get to the end of the song, and she goes back over to the piano and she like hits a C or something, and she's like, we stayed on key, and the room erupts. Everybody's like, we stayed on key. Everybody,
Did you help in that process of staying on key?
Man, there were so many people in that group. I don't know that I would have had any.
Oh, okay.
I think choir in middle school was like, gosh, it was at least like 60 people. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I was that instrumental in,
driving the
person out of
bus,
60,
the whole, keeping it all in pitch.
But it was interesting. Like I remember going home and saying something about it to my mom, because I didn't get it at all, and she was like, oh, okay, I see. She saw what was going on there, but she didn't say anything. She was smart. She just kind of let it be
smart?
what it was. Well, I think sometimes we have a tendency to like get in our heads about like our strengths or our weaknesses, or like what we can do naturally, and I think she just didn't want to psych me out or something like that. She was just like, I'm gonna just let this ride, and as at a certain point he'll kind of put two and two together and figure that out.
Yeah, I definitely remember, not so much now, but definitely being kids, like some kids will like realize they have a certain advantage over others, like maybe they're just bigger or something, and then they kind of just like to ride that advantage and then let the other things kind of fall by the wayside. Like, it's like a more of like an immature type of mentality. Like that's really cool that your mom didn't want you to know that you had that like special talent.
I think she had kind of just an inhibition of the importance of wonder for a child. Not to know everything that's going on, not to be able to explain anything, but to just be able to marvel at it.
Wow.
And I think that kind of feeling, that kind of emotion is something that every child should be growing up with, in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's reading, whether that's I don't know, watching some beautiful movie, something like that, or just spending time with your family. For me, that was mostly music.
Yeah. There's weaknesses that, well, do you believe there's weaknesses that come with having perfect pitch?
There could be. I guess I never really thought about it, man. In some ways, it makes transcribing obviously much easier. Like it was pretty easy. Not easy, I don't want to say that, but when I was transcribing JJ and Curtis, in high school, it wasn't that hard to pick up on the notes and the phrases that they were doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, the way that they played those phrases, that's a different story. That takes a lot more time to get into. If there's a weakness, I try not to think about it. At this point, I never think about perfect pitch unless someone brings it up, I guess, or something like that.
No, yeah,
But
I feel like it's totally like something that like people like to like show off maybe, or like are in like obviously not you, I'm saying like because like you didn't know you had it, but for at least in the beginning, but like once you get past a certain point, like people just develop into who they are, and I don't think it matters as much.
Exactly.
But, yeah. It is a cool, unique characteristic, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But hey.
What's up?
Hey.
Awesome.
I just kind of I was dealing with audio things, so I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to my podcast. At what point? Well, I guess you had some semblance of natural ability, which I would say is probably not important. But at what point did you decide that this was a career for you, or at least something you wanted to pursue in college, for example?
I probably can't pin down any specific moment. Sometimes people have that. They're like, I knew this day, this thing happened, and I knew from that point that I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. You know, some people have that.
I saw an accountant hating life,
Yeah.
and I just knew I had to play music from
Exactly.
then on.
I think for me it was like, I mean, like I said, music was just, it was everywhere. It was in my house all the time from such a young age. It just felt so natural to me. I never felt forced by it or anything. I was never really my parents were great. They were never, you have to do this, you have to do that, blah blah blah. There was never any of that. So I will say though that when I started playing with more people outside of my area, when I started going to like some various camps like Skidmore Jazz Institute, I went to Vail Jazz, and that was where I met Austin. Once I started to have those interactions with musicians from all over the country and really all over the world too, I think it became more clear just how special this privilege is to be able to play music and reach people that way.
So what was your rock bottom, like okay, so this is where you're super excited about music and you're like, oh, such a privilege and what a wonder. Describe the points in life where you're like, wow, this sucks, I want to be an accountant. Like,
man,
everybody has one, right?
I have one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'm just like a more like optimistic person naturally. I don't know that I've ever had an experience where I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I mean,
or it could be your biggest doubt. Or
sure, yeah. Well, I think that there are some doubts that come just with playing trombone in this scene. I mean, if you look around, there's not that many trombonists that are being hired like for small groups and stuff like that. And as a young, I think maybe I was a little bit unaware of that when I was like just starting high school and stuff. But especially once I got to New York and I was going, I was hitting up all the clubs because I was 18 and I was going to the Vanguard, Standard, and Smoke and all these places. It did become clear to me just how few trombonists were really making it in the setting that I thought I was going to be in. But I think that kind of low point quickly turns into like an opportunity if you have the right mindset. So
look at Joel Ross.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think if you have the mindset of like, okay, well, I don't see that many trombonists playing in small groups. Well, I mean, hey, people might like to play with me, something like that. And at that point, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna put the work in. I'm gonna keep connecting with the beautiful peers around me at MSM that really value me and value my voice, and see what happens. We're gonna create our own way.
Yeah, I mean, from this project that you're doing on Sunday, it really, the way I think of these instruments is they're a tool to like extend our musical thought into reality. Put it out for people to enjoy. And you're not even using the trombone on Sunday, right?
It's correct. Yeah. A lot of the music that we're going to be playing on Sunday is usually in the format of I think 7 people. So like bass, drums, piano, guitar, myself, and a saxophonist and a vocalist. So taking that music and then slimming it down to 3 people. That there's going to be some concessions here and there.
Yeah.
But I think anytime you're playing music, or just anytime you're conversing, whatever, it's always an opportunity to share something special, you know, especially when it's focused like that, when it's just 3 people, and everybody has, you know, a variety of roles. Like, I think it opens things up. So,
can you describe for me your motivations for this project? Is it super fun, or is it super inward, or is it something you think people need to hear right now, or why should people tune in, or why are you doing?
I think the guy who's playing electronic percussion is Stefano Malinverno, and when I heard what he was doing just with this drum pad, like I was just so drawn to it that I knew I wanted to make music with him in some capacity. So from that point, it was like, okay, well, you know, what else do I need? I need a vocalist, Imani, who more or less sings, you know, all my songs now. And I was like, okay, I need a vocalist. I need Stefano. And I was just thinking about it. I feel like there's something really magical about trio.
I agree.
Having 3 people that are connected, you know, like a triangle. I think there's something special about that, and at that point it came down to like, okay, I need to shed keys. You know, I need to, you know, play my songs on piano, which, you know, I was already doing a lot, you know, for hours and hours trying to figure things out and stuff like that. And the music just kind of came together that way. Like when I went over to Stefano's place a few months ago, and we just started playing, jamming, and it was like, this feels right. You know, we need to do something more with this. So,
do you guys hope to record it in the future in like a record?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done some recording already, and that will be something. That will definitely be a chapter.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. What kind of messages are in some of your songs? Like, could you give examples maybe of, because you're writing most of the lyrics, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's correct. Most of the lyrics.
Okay. Is Imani writing any?
Yeah, she helped me with a few of the songs that we'll be doing Sunday. I think there's always give and take when you're writing the lyrics with the intention of someone else singing them at a certain point. You know, like you're gonna bring them the lyrics and you're gonna sing it for them and show them on the piano, and then they'll be like, okay, that's cool. Let's do you mind if we try this? And I love that. That's one of my favorite things about showing people my lyrics and my songs is, you know, what they bring to the table too.
Yeah.
And I almost always love what they bring more, you know, than my original conception. I always love, not even almost always, I always love having that interplay.
Yeah.
As far as the message in some of these songs, I think I would say that oftentimes a lot of what I write comes down like to gratitude. People in my life that I'm grateful for, moments in my life that I'm grateful for. You know, I see a whole community of people that support me, and when I write music, you know, one of the main goals is to show them all like, hey, this is what you've done, you know, for me, and I wouldn't be here without you. That's just a fact. Whether that's, you know, my family, you know, my parents or my siblings. I have 3 amazing, you know, siblings that I look to all the time for advice and for fun. All the people in my community, people I went to high school with and are now doing all kinds of other things. I'd say a lot of the lyrics, whether or not it's obvious or not, always in some way, shape, or form come back to being grateful for all of those people and for everybody.
Yeah. Usually, like I hear a lot of songs, I feel, where it comes from a different place, where it comes from a place of yearning to have something that you can't have, or broken love, or a bad breakup or something. So it's nice. It's actually refreshing to hear like such a positive message that you're like conveying. You know, like where it comes from like a place of gratitude. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I think even in those songs where it's like, you know, like the brokenhearted, you know, person singing, you know, "Take Me Back" or something like that. I still think that like in a lot of that music, whether or not it's super clear, super evident in the lyrics, I think the music that hits the hardest there is always the music that is like showing like your true, I don't know how else to say it, just showing your true gratitude for other people. Even in those songs, I think it's there.
Yeah. There's an authenticity
Mm-hmm.
in all of it. You know, it's got to be like a real true emotion behind it, and then yeah. No, I definitely connect towards different types of songs with different lyrics, you know, but definitely like if you like I feel like if the listener can feel that emotion that you feel, and then they're like, "Oh wait, I can relate to that emotion sometimes too in my life," then it helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, what's your process though? Do you usually write the lyrics first, or how would you go about writing these songs?
I think more often than not, it just starts with some kind of like cell. It starts with something small.
Like a lyrical
Whether that's
style?
sometimes it's a lyric, sometimes it's just a melody. I mean, sometimes it's just a sound. You know, at that point, like
Yeah.
and then from there you just have to make it grow somehow, and that happens in different ways. You know, sometimes like before I go to bed, I'll be, you know, writing lyrics in my notebook, and then, you know, the next day or a week later or something like that, I'll be at the piano trying to make it work. I find that usually the best stuff happens when you just kind of let it out, you know, as opposed to like, I want to write this right now, I want to write this way, or I want to write a song like you know, exactly about this. I think that your mind has a way of revealing to you through the music like what's on your mind, and it doesn't have to be so clear as you're writing it, you know.
Yeah, it could be more of like a subconscious thing
Mm-hmm.
you're saying.
Absolutely. It may not even be clear what the song is about until you've played it, you know, a dozen times or something like that live, you know.
Yeah.
Well, for each song that the public gets to hear, how many songs just never made the light of day, or are you a pretty straight shooter?
I would say at this point in my career, a lot of the songs that I finished are eventually going to be consumed by a public ear. I definitely try to. I'm a little bit meticulous, I think, with with songwriting, in terms of like I really want it to be like, I want it from start to finish to be perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad, whether that's, you know, to my detriment or not.
You're a perfectionist.
Yes, I would say so. That's in some ways a reality that I'm like actively seeking to change, you know, is to just let the music be what it is and let it reveal to me where it wants to go.
Or where you are right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important point though that you're bringing up, in terms of like how much music is composed by people that is just, you know, it just stays in the notebook, or, you know, it stays on the computer in some Sibelius file, something like that, and that's perfectly fine, you know.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you could go back to it and be like, oh wow, you know, I really like this, or it could just be like you had to let something out, and
It's like
that's
a
fine
therapy.
too. Mm-hmm.
It's like almost therapeutic to write down your thoughts in a song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you ever steal compositionally? You just take chords. You just take ideas.
I steal all the time, man. I think the best artists steal. I think the best writers steal. I mean, history repeats itself. Why shouldn't we go back and find the sounds of, you know, the 70s that are resonating right now? And I think also, like, sometimes in the music that I write, it's like whether or not I know it exactly, I'm I'm sort of, I'm taking from something, like, more often than not. So whether you know it or not, everything that you're consuming eventually is probably, you're gonna steal it or something like that.
I think that's like in hip hop music, for example, like they sample a lot of older songs, and I think that's super cool. Just it kind of relates back to like even like I was reading about like counterpoint and stuff, like the evolution of it and how they used to take like these like melodies before harmony was like conceptualized, and then they would keep these melodies that were like iconic in those days, and then new composers would come in and just write counter melodies over those melodies. So then it's like it's got like some familiarity in it, and it's also got some novelty.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like in hip hop, like do you think like it's kind of like a similar thing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was Ahmad Jamal's like "I Love Music" is like sampled again in Nas's "The World Is Yours." Slum Village, one of my favorite artists, they sampled "Come Running to Me," the vocoder section that Herbie has. There's so many examples of that. I mean, think of Portrait of Tracy, Weather Reports too. I guess it's Jacko's, but that was redone by SWV. It's Rain, and I mean it's killing. You listen to SWV ever, you're like, wow, this really hits. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to do that. And people are always reworking their own stuff too. So I mean, look at Duke. Like a lot of the writing that Duke did was stealing from previous works that he had done and reworking them, reformatting them for new audiences and new times. So
funny point. You should probably specify Duke Ellington, because I was listening to the last podcast we were doing, that clip you posted from Adam, and he was talking about, every time Donnie would call me for Maria, and I was like, man, some people listening to this are like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like Donnie McCaslin, a tenor saxophonist, calls us for Maria Schneider's
orchestra.
And like I was just listening to this, I was like, okay, yeah. But what if somebody else were listening?
Let me go back and listen. Earlier I said JJ, I meant JJ Johnson. I said Curtis, I was talking about Curtis Fuller.
See, we do it all the time.
I said my dad, Mark. He has my last name, Marc Giordano. If you want to be that specific. Yes, just now though I mentioned.
I mean, it's funny that we like refer to our heroes a lot of times by their first name or like really colloquially, because we do develop a relationship with them through study.
Absolutely.
Like I feel like I know personal things about John Coltrane. Not that I ever was fortunate enough to meet him, of course, but we read about them, we study their lives, or we all of a sudden have this like personal relationship with them that like nobody else will know anything about. And but then we also have a lot of overlap too.
Overlap how?
As in, if I refer to Train, like we'll all think of our own personal things, but there's going to be a lot of common ground. And that's why we can say Train and have a conversation about Train with a lot of agreement.
It's really endearing. It's one of my favorite things about this music.
Yeah, I agree.
So I feel like that's almost like a goal that people have. They want to be known as like their first name in some way. I always have that. Maybe you guys. I don't know if that's a shared thing.
I can't think I've ever thought like I want to be Austin to a lot of people. But that's an interesting goal. When did you?
It just happened one day. I was like, I think I was listening to like Joe Henderson, and someone was like, "Oh, is that Joe?" And I was like, "It is Joe." I was just thinking to myself, like, "Yo, that'd be so cool." Like, yeah. Well, who's the most famous like Joe that that plays trombone?
Is there
exactly?
There's a void to be filled. Okay, there's a couple of things that we kind of went over that I wanted to perhaps come back to.
For sure.
Okay. Okay, let me just say the two thoughts. They're kind of unrelated, but I don't want to miss them.
Mhm.
First is when we were talking about gratitude. What do you think is the important? Not important. What is the relevance of gratitude to this day and age, 2020 or November 2020? Yeah, that is one thing. What is this music on gratitude? What is it doing right now for people? And then two, oh yeah, you were talking about stealing from hip hop artists and how hip hop artists sample and things. But I remember this period of your life before where you were drawing heavily from Kurt Rosenwinkel and Ambrose. I can't say his last name actually. How do you?
Akinmusire. Yeah.
Akinmusire. Yeah. So a lot of your compositions from, would you call that a prior period or now?
No, not at all.
Currently.
I have projects in different, what people will call different styles and or different genres, whatever, however they categorize it. And I think it's very healthy to be having both of those influences and both of those representations of yourself in different areas in the music. That's a constant thing for me, and
cool.
I honestly I don't know that I'll ever be losing either of these worlds. I really just hope to add to it.
So what is it about like Ambrose and Kurt Rosenwinkel's compositions or artistry that made you so drawn to them and want to draw from them?
I think I'll start with Kurt. I think that something about guitar is very related to trombone in the construction of the instrument. You have a fretboard that you're sliding up and down, and you also have the trombone, which you're also sliding. That may sound like very remedial or very basic, but I think that in some ways that the lines that Rosenwinkel has actually translate not that poorly to trombone, which you might not expect. So I transcribed him a lot, when he was playing with Marc Turner. When he was playing with Marc Turner on the next step and doing the live record at the Vanguard, the Village Vanguard. Should I say Vanguard? Where we're at there. So I definitely also I just love the sound of guitar. Some of my favorite musicians are guitarists. But I think I can't even explain it more than the fretboard and the slide. There's something that connects these two instruments that I'm frankly happy to still be wondering about. I'm happy I haven't arrived at some kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then with Ambrose, it just comes down to not just, but one of the first things you notice is the phrasing. From start to finish, he's telling a story, and he's using different sounds, on the trumpet to deliver that. So, as a brass player, as well, I often look to Ambrose to see how he delivers his music and how he reaches people, because he's one of the most popular artists, especially to the generation of musicians that are coming up right now. And I think also the deepness that his compositions can convey is something that I've always strived to recreate. One of the pieces that I've written called APV, basically we were talking about stealing.
Pillow vortex?
Yeah.
How? I never
called-
made that connection.
Yeah.
APV is a pillow vortex.
Yeah, a pillows vortex,
Okay,
I should
pillows.
say.
Wow.
But,
Wait, that's not a pillow vortex. That's not like an actual.
Well, that's the title. That's the actual title, is a pillows vortex. But usually I shorten it. I think it just says APV on the lead sheet now.
Oh, gotcha.
And
I always thought they were two separate things.
no, they're the same. They're the
I
same.
always forget.
That's on on your SoundCloud, right? You have
Correct.
Attila's
Yeah,
vortex.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I checked that out
that's-
before the last.
That's with
podcast.
basically trombone quartet, and
Yeah.
we're gonna do another version of it on Sunday too.
Oh,
just
really?
with a
No
trio.
way.
So yeah, So I'm excited for
Awesome.
With lyrics or?
that. There could be lyrics.
Stay tuned.
At the moment, I'm not planning
Okay.
for any lyrics.
That's cool.
Yeah, I will say lyrics are in the works right now, though. It's just, sometimes you can't force it. Sometimes you got to put something down for a minute and come back to it because you're still a little bit shaky about what you're trying to convey exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I was saying about this in relation to Ambrose is that Ambrose has this amazing song called Maurice and Michael, and then it says "Sorry I didn't say hello" in the parentheses, and in one of the interviews that he's done, he talks about what that song means, and it's about going back home in California, and seeing someone that he recognized, I think from high school or just from when they were younger, and this person was pretty troubled, and looked like maybe they needed help or something like that, but he just didn't know what to do, so he just kept walking, and that's where the "Sorry I didn't say hello" comes from. But in terms of stealing, I heard basically it starts with this quarter note on dum dum dum. It's slower, but it starts with this quarter note, and I heard that, and then I heard Sam Harris come in on piano.
Sam Harris, yeah.
And I just couldn't believe how much energy they got from this quarter note.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe like within a few months of hearing that, I was just like sitting down at the piano, letting things try to come out instead of forcing, and that was kind of like where I ended up.
That was on your
with this quarter note.
Subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm. And
without
then
even realizing.
exactly, and then I was listening to Ambrose one day, and I was like, oh my God, this is like I kind of didn't even realize it, and I stole this basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I basically look at it as like a nod to Ambrose, and, in terms of, what the song actually means. Part of it is that, and part of it is other things, which I hope to convey on Sunday. So
that's such an emotion that I feel everyone can relate to as well. Like, I didn't even know that's what the song was about.
Me neither, no.
But it's so, everyone, like, going back to your hometown and, like, should I say hi? Should I not say hi? It's like, we all go through that, so, like, it's nice, like, that hits home. Like, what do you think about when you're improvising? Like, what feelings cross your mind?
Wow. I try not to think at all. Now, like when I play sessions or when I play with people, I always record the session, and when I go back home, the next day, whatever, and I I'm gonna be judgmental or whatever. I'm gonna listen back and point out the moments instead of pointing out the moments where it's like, oh, I didn't really hit this note or whatever, or this wasn't very clear. Usually the main thing that I'm listening to is, this is the moment where I started thinking, as opposed to this is the moment where I was just listening and accepting everything around me and adding to it. So when I'm improvising, it comes down to getting away from the brain and bringing it all back to here. And really, at that point, if everything is here, then there's really only one answer, and it's that you're going to be playing for somebody that you love. So that's kind of, I guess, what it boils down to. There's so many other things at play, obviously, ear training and listening, but the biggest thing that I think about now when I'm playing in any musical setting is I want this to be for someone that I love.
Yeah, very deep.
I remember on the subject of thinking versus listening and adding, as you put it, which I love. I remember at Lincoln Center Summer Jazz Academy, which is run by Jazz at Lincoln Center by Wynton Marsalis. I remember there was this tenor soloist who had he had a lot of chops, a lot of facility on his tenor saxophonist who had a lot of facility on his instrument, but wasn't really saying much at the same time, you know. And Wynton got this guy aside, and he said, just go mad, just like don't like. I think he like threw his stand on the ground. It was like, just play, don't think about the chords, play wild, play caveman, like. And this guy just like screeched, and he's like, okay, we can work with that, we can deal with that, we can deal with that. Now let's sophisticate it. Sorry, I'm not gonna do that on the air. Sorry. But I think, and then he went on later. I don't know if this was in private or to the group, but he explained that he believes we should be teaching young musicians and improvisers how to play avant-garde and free, and versus the opposite is what we do. We teach them about harmony, and like this is the restrictions immediately before they've even tasted
the
freedom,
rules,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why we get so in our heads, because that's how we're trained. We're trained about rules. You can't do this. Try to avoid doing that, versus starting from freedom and gradually adding sophistication to where you can maybe use harmonic devices or rhythmic devices in a more concerted way than just blowing. But he said the expression that a toddler would have, or like a totally constraintless environment would provide, that's the essential part. If you have all the rules, all the technique, all the other stuff, but none of this, then it doesn't really mean anything. You have to have that first. Yeah, I don't have a question with that, but that's just like one of the most profound lessons that I learned from growing up. Were you at that camp with me, or you went the year before?
I think we missed the overlap. I think I was there the year before you were there, and then I saw you later that summer in Colorado. But
do you have any Wynton stories?
Any Wynton stories?
Wynton Marsalis? I think I said
Wynton
that.
Marsalis. Yeah, you did. He might be. You know what? At this point, he's probably the most well-known jazz musician in the world. You could probably say Wynton, and people would more or less know, right?
Yeah.
No, maybe. Wynton did a Q&A last like February, something like that, kind of right before kind of COVID took over and stuff like that, at this competition where all these schools came and performed some Ellington charts, some other stuff, Duke Ellington charts, but he had this Q&A, and I asked him about balancing family with music. Asked him like, how do you balance taking care of business and touring the world, doing all this music that you love to play? How do you balance that with being there for the people that need you? And his response was pretty simple. It was like, if you can sacrifice, do it. If you can't, then don't. It was he went on and on and on, but that was essentially what it boiled down to. And he said some other great things. Said no situation is perfect. When you see a right angle in nature, it means that a man has been there. That was one of the other beautiful things that he said. Right? So
wow.
He said everybody has a different situation. Everybody has different things that they're dealing with. There are things going on in your head and your head that I could have no idea of fully understanding. And that's that. At that point, it comes down to listening. It comes down to being there for people and approaching every situation with an open mind. And then from there, it's it would be a lot easier to live day to day. If most people could.
It'd also be a lot more
appreciate
boring.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
If everything was a right angle, there was no differences in everybody. There was no.
I see.
Not issues per se, but just if everyone had like the same mind space, and we were all kind of like, now we all have our differences, and that's what makes when you play music
we
and when
got
you write different.
we got a comment saying there's many natural right angles.
Who said that?
uh,
It doesn't matter.
the account's name is LPR Presents. He runs a documentary series that I've watched. He does like he covers like school shootings and current events and like the minds behind.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty
Fascinating.
intense channel. Yeah, we've spoken together a little bit, but
I'm
thanks for tuning in.
I'll respond briefly, and I think what Wynton means by that is, it's a simple way of saying that there's no situation in life where it's going to be like, this is exactly what I need to be doing right now, where everything is clear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be able to live with that dissonance with other people, to be able to live with that rub is something that we all have to figure out. There's never going to be a perfect time for whatever.
Man, you this makes me think right away of what we talk about a lot about, because you're getting into meditating and stuff, and it's very like we did like a session a couple of days ago, and it from what I got it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's just like there's always going to be stuff going on in everyone's life. It's just being able to tame it and just let things pass you by and not be bothered by them. That's like the magic behind it, that like just to be able to like sit down and just let things go, right?
Yeah. Well,
I would also ask how you know it's a right angle. That's another thing that I was just thinking about.
Right.
How do you know it's it's because you went up and measured and fit it to like this system of that we've quantized now for what that means. But we can go on. So I just had to let that out.
yeah, definitely. No. Man, what I've been feeling as of the past few months is very restless. And I think that's anxiety's through the roof statistically too. I think that's a pretty common thing amongst people living in our times, right? But it's always been present, and I think it's because of this gap between where we want to be and where we are, right? This friction is always that's anxiety. You want to be there. Inadequacy, there's different causes of it, but that's what I think of as the cause. But like what Michael was saying, that gap will always be there.
Yeah.
Talk to a 90-year-old, 92-year-old Sonny Rollins, he still has that gap. He still has stuff he wants to do in life. So it's not healthy to be anxious about that gap. You have to make peace with the gap. As in, like Wynton Marsalis still has the gap, no doubt, right? And so how do we maintain ambition and progress in our lives while not becoming restless and anxious, because that usually just leads to burnout or mental health issues or stagnation anyway. So it's not a productive emotion, and that's the thing I've been trying to battle recently. Like, how do I stay ambitious and have the gap, have a wide gap even, but not be like super crazy about it and self-defeating. And
that's a great question.
the thing that I've kind of answered for myself is this from this TED Talk by PhD. She studies Buddhism and like modern psychology and like the overlap between their lessons. Her name is Polly Young Eisendrath. I could be wrong about the Eisendrath. It's Eisen something. It's not Eisenberg. I think it's Polly Young Eisendrath. She gave a TED Talk on this, and her definition of happiness was, I don't want to misquote, but basically it's the state in which you don't desire to be anywhere else or do any other thing. Right? So you could take that one way, as in meditate. You're just totally in the present. You're not doing anything. But the other way you can be so present is when you're so deeply invested in work. You're not thinking about where you need to be tonight, what you have to do in an hour. You're just you're so focused. You're in flow. People call it deep work. People call it focus. That is that's the most productive state we have. We can talk. Artists have historically talked about it as like being visited by the muses, where
Sure,
things can
yeah,
just
yeah.
like flow out of you. And we'll go deeper into that because I saw your eyes there. But that is a very productive state where you're just incredibly present. And so the more hours that we can set aside for that type of work, where we're totally present but we're actually productive, and then also the other type, just meditation and being comfortable with nothing. If you have those two things in your life, you'll grow and grow and grow, but you'll also be like satisfied with here and now. But about the muses, I know you've been very influenced by William Blake and other figures in literature who are very into like, where does creativity come from? Can you talk to me about William Blake and how that has influenced that reading has influenced your outlook on creativity?
Absolutely. William Blake is one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite thinkers and writers, and I was first exposed to him last year in a class at MSM. Just kind of funny, by chance I had never I wasn't actually scheduled to take it. I was supposed to do something else, and then I got placed in this class. I didn't really want to be there. I was like, it's kind of stupid, now I have to change my humanity. Now I'm gonna have to do some work, but it was pretty crazy how that worked out. Anyway, that's just an interesting aside. But William Blake has a book called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, where he talks about the way that we frame the dichotomy between like body and spirit. And what he means by that is a lot of organized religion will encourage you to reject all of your bodily wants or your bodily I don't want to say needs, that's not exactly what I'm getting at. Basically they want you to reject the state of being here in your body, and they want you to instead try to be 100% spirit. And William Blake essentially says that that's a dangerous thing to do, and that you need a balance. You need both. You need your spirit to be there, you need your body to be there, because if you never satisfy the body ever, there's nowhere for your spirit to reside. You know what I mean? I think that he doesn't even explain it so much as a dichotomy. He explains it as a beautiful coexistence. Yeah. And that was something that I had been wrestling with for a while. I was raised Catholic, and it's like the favorite thing that Catholics like to do is call everything a mystery. You know, it's like I mean that's what it is. You can like some people marvel at it and they love it. Other people hate it and they leave the church at some point. So yeah, I could give you 10 things right now that it's like you ask a question and the answer in the Catholic Church is it's a mystery. It's like it doesn't. and
I don't know why that's so funny.
And well, it is funny. There's nothing wrong with that. At this point, it's it is a little humorous. But there's some. I think there is something to that wonder, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I forget exactly where I was. I think that so from a young age, being raised Catholic, it was very much like I'm going to be as much spirit as I can, and you think that that's going to be something very rewarding and something that's going to transport you away from like all the chaos of right now in our world or something like that. But William Blake really does a phenomenal job of explaining in this book that you can't. You're a human. Like you're on this earth. You wouldn't be here if you wouldn't be in a body if there were not a need for it in some capacity.
Would you say he was against religion in any way when you said?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think he was of the mind that if you submit entirely to an organized religion without conceiving what you feel, what you think for yourself, then you're at risk of losing conclusions that you might have come to. You're at risk of exploring deeper parts of yourself. But anyway, that coexistence to me, in terms of just living, has been really important because it allows for that dissonance to happen in my mind. I feel like a lot of the scenarios that we live in now are, it's like everything is mutually exclusive. That's how people paint it. We have, just look at, I hate saying this, but just look at politics. Like, we have one opposite extreme. We have two opposite extremes. You're all the way over here, you're all the way over here. And if you're in the middle and you're trying to figure something out, it's, people are damning you, basically, And there are other reasons for that, of course, that go beyond, what we could cover today. Yeah. But I think looking for that middle ground of coexistence is really important, and especially in terms of William Blake. I feel like if people could get a little bit more into his literature, then they might kind of arrive at that conclusion. Marriage of Heaven and Hell, if you want to read it, there's the book.
Yeah.
And the Book of Your Reason was the other one we looked at.
Amazing.
That one is... I couldn't... I wasn't there for that one, like, mentally. I read it, and it was just out of reach for me.
It's challenging,
I'll have to
for
come
sure.
back to it.
And I think also, like, it's not even that you have to understand everything in the book. One of the other beautiful things about William Blake is that he did these amazing illuminated plates.
Right.
So in the book, you're reading text that is on, an illustration that he did, and the way that he made the aluminum plates is another great story as well. But it's such an interactive read, and it puts you, it really transports you into another space.
Well, I guess just for background, for people who didn't take this class, like me and Joe, he was an English writer popular in the 1800s, and had a very tormented life. He wrote this a poem that ended up being kind of like England's second national anthem of sorts, right? That was William Blake? Yes, yeah. It was definitely William Blake, but I don't remember the name of the...
I also don't remember.
We'll have to
don't
look
ask.
it up. Right. Very cool, though. But, okay, we did have an audience question. And he's talking
Excited.
about... he's talking about that prior conversation of the state of flow and the mind and rules versus the other thing. And he says... I'll just read it to you. I'm a musician, too, fully trained to the... fullest extent of the RCOA theory, all that for piano. I always found that creativity just happens for me almost as an idiot savant. I turn off and it comes. Theory helps me a bit when creating, but also created a divide, like the magic was gone and a system or a clear method was revealed. I'm curious how much the technical aspect of creation plays a role in Joe's productions, composition, I think he means, or... and if it damaged the ability to flow. If the technical damaged your ability, this artistic flow, where you...
It certainly has the capacity to. I think if all you're trying to do is demonstrate, what you can do, or demonstrate all the different ways of like, oh, I'm going to do this over this song, I'm going to do this over that song, whatever, then, you run the risk of just, being a showman. I'm really fortunate to study with Marc Cary. He's one of my biggest mentors. He runs our Harlem sessions. He has some amazing records out. That he's wearing the shirt, Music is My Sanctuary, Gary Bartz. And yeah, anyway, just shout out to Mark. Thank you so much for
Thank
everything.
you for the music. Thank you for Roy Hargrove.
So he has I take lessons with him, basically bi-weekly, and last week we were playing Celia, this beautiful Bud Powell song, one of my favorite songs, and we were like trading choruses over Zoom, and he basically said to me like, I know the song, like, but let's dig into like what makes this song Celia as opposed to some other song in B flat, and we did, and he started getting into the actual nitty gritty of the tune, which maybe is what you might refer to as like the technical aspect. You also may refer to it as the creative aspect, I guess, depending on how you're going to look at it. But basically, what he said that kind of like rocked me a little bit was like, whenever you're playing a song, you have to look at it like you're exploring the song. It's all about exploring the framework of the tune, exploring what makes that tune its own tune. If you're just demonstrating what you can do over the tune, then you're not really playing with any joy. You're not playing with any intention to create. You're playing with an intention to regurgitate. So if we can get into that mindset of exploring a tune, I think that's where a lot of magic comes. And speaking of Roy Hargrove, I think he did that every time he played, when you listen to him. And yeah.
Did Mark use the word essence when describing?
Essence?
Because that's what he would say it to me a lot. He's all about the essence, right? He has a tune called Essence.
Right, that's right.
Which is just taken from Jackie McLean's Isle of Java. It's almost the same tune. I mean, that goes back to our conversation earlier. But Isle of Java. And I remember Mark talked to me about first choruses. He said, has he talked to you about first choruses?
No, but I can picture what's
he
what's
said
coming.
The first chorus is the one. That's the only one that matters. That's where they said what they were gonna say. The first chorus, the giant steps, was the essence. After that, it was more of the thing. But
just kind of elaborating on the first chorus.
Kind of.
That's really deep.
Yeah.
Roy would only take one chorus when he was playing it small.
Bird as well. Yeah.
Everyone that would precede him would take like 10 choruses or something.
Right, because they're not getting at the essence quick enough. They're exploring all this extraneous stuff without really getting to what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
It was my take on it. Yeah.
That's super deep. Yeah, being super concise with it.
Thank you, Mark.
For sure, yeah.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, well, we've been talking a lot about improv and like jazz roots and stuff, and I'm curious, how does that translate to Sunday's gig? Will there be a lot of improv on there, or will a lot of the compositions kind of just be more set out and you kind of know what's going to happen
sure.
on each song?
Stefano and I like to stretch for sure, so that'll definitely be in there. I think you'll be able to hear where we're like kind of stretching like the form a little bit. I mean, on some of my songs, like because Stefano is playing percussion and Amani is singing now, it's like instead of having a pianist and a bass player that I'm looking to, it's like now now I get to like really determine the harmonic framework and where I'm going. So
nice.
Especially on my original tunes, I can go somewhere in that moment that I hear. Probably sounds kind of basic, but like I can like actually change the harmony in one of the choruses if I'd like to, and I don't know exactly, but I have a semblance of how I'm gonna get back because I've done a lot of exploring just at the piano myself, trying to merge different songs and stuff like that. I don't think we're doing anything that is like exactly set. Maybe maybe there's one tune that's like a little bit like, okay, we're basically gonna do it this way. But I think with the yeah, with the exactly, and that's the beauty of it, you know.
Yeah.
Every time you sit down with people and you're gonna play, it's gotta be, you gotta take the temperature of that moment, and you gotta take the temperature of the other people that you're with, you know.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the comment, I'm sorry if the guy's still watching, I forget his name. Who commented, the pianist?
His account name is LPR Presents. I should know his name because we've emailed a couple times.
I'm talking about the pianist. Oh, was it the same guy?
Yeah,
the right angles and the.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he said he's a pianist, a classical pianist, right? So. It's such a different mindset, like from what you just said. I feel like a lot of classical musicians will be like, how do you do that? Like, it's so interesting. Like, yeah, just gotta like feel the temperature of the moment, like you said, and work from there. And like he was like kind of saying how like technical, how the technicality of things can get in the way. But like, what do you think about how like in order for you to do that, you had to experiment probably like hours and hours on the piano to like figure out like what other harmonies can go in there, and then in the moment you decide, like, it's muscle memory by then, and you know, so you have the technique, and then it's just like in that moment you deciding which one's the best for that situation.
I'll start by who said was that Sonny Rollins who said something? I forget exactly what he said. Maybe just like predictability is the enemy of improvised music. Does that ring a bell for you at all?
It does.
You were definitely the person who said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like for sure.
Yes.
I remember that day. But,
I don't remember who said that. I can look it up.
The reason I thought of that was because you mentioned muscle memory. I think muscle memory is also in some way. I mean, it's our friend because you know, we have to practice what we're playing, but but it's also it can also be a pitfall. You know, we can also get stuck in what our fingers have practiced well. So it's not even so much that I've practiced. It's not so much that we practice exploring at the piano when we're alone, so that we can, you know, have different things that we're gonna go this way for sure. It's like the art of practicing exploring helps you to further explore in that moment. You always have to practice exploring all the time. And once you're able to do that, it's like you will actually be finding new things.
Yeah.
You know, during the gig, and oftentimes that'll also just come from, you know, like what somebody else is feeding you. You know, what you latch onto. You're like, oh wow, I vibe with that. Like, let's find that space together.
It feels almost more enriching too when you're practicing, right? Like, let's say you have that intention in your mind, instead of just like being like, okay, I'm gonna work on this specific technique, and then that's it. Then it's like that can be like super monotonous, but
absolutely.
But like, right, like if you're practicing with like that creative exploration in mind, then it feels so much more enriching, right?
Yeah. Well, at that point, it's like it's kind of, I guess we've been talking about it a little bit. You know, you don't want to be practicing regurgitations. You know, why would you do that? You know, you want to practice explorations, and then, you know, get down to the nitty gritty of like, okay, how did this happen? You know, how can I make this cleaner? And by doing that, I mean, then you're gonna be a Roy Hargrove. You're gonna be on the bandstand exploring all the different things in that moment that, you know, you've had practice at, because you've been exploring all these other feelings, all these other expressions, all these other sounds.
Yeah, I almost think of it as like a muscle in your brain. Like, I mean, your brain doesn't have muscles, but you're like exercising that power to create. It's like I've heard of studies about how jazz musicians in particular, as opposed to other musicians that don't have to improvise on the spot and create, they have like a different thing in their brain. I don't know, but it's just like a little bit bigger or something, just because they had to like have the need to create on the spot, and that just like created something else.
Well, I think also, I guess I have like a hesitancy to look at the brain as like the like the ultimate determinant in this kind of exploration. Like I feel like ultimately the exploring is like really here. It's really rooted like in your heart. I feel like a lot of times, like I, maybe for better or for worse, in terms of like this kind of gray area that we're getting at, I think that when we think about like the muscles of up here, that's really more so when we get used to, not used to, but when we think about the muscles up here in our brain, that's when we kind of get locked into like what we've done, I think, what we've done already. And that's, to me, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of overworking this a bit, but it's very obvious for the audience when the music is like coming from here as opposed to here. Anyway, I don't know if that, maybe that was a bit of a stretch compared to what you were saying.
No, it's interesting. I was just like trying to think of how you have to like have this certain technique, but as well you have to like be in the moment. And I like that, like letting it flow out and not trying to think too much. That's really the biggest enemy when it comes to playing live music, and just like getting your thoughts in your head, and then you can't have a clear headspace to really hear what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's like a misconception that your heart is associated with like losing the focus and just letting go, and that, I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. You know, like this is where the focus is. When everything is coming from here, that's when your solo is, you know, is from point A to point B. That's what connects your solo, is everything here.
So if I'm, say, somebody who works a 9-to-5 job, I have a family, maybe I have children, I come home in the evenings and I chill, like what can I take from this conversation about creating from your head versus your heart, or maybe living more in that way? Like let's for a second, you know, put ourselves in the mind of somebody listening. Like what, I mean, obviously it's an interesting conversation and a stimulating one intellectually, but like how can we bring these lessons that are so at the forefront of our mind and bring them to other people?
Well, I think that I guess the first thing that comes to mind is like the act of listening. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot in conversations, not about music, just any conversations, you know, people have a natural excitement to say something, you know, and that can lead them to not listen fully to what the other person is saying. Maybe they heard the beginning of the sentence, you know, through the middle, but they missed, you know, the last part of what they said.
Yeah.
So I think for the person who doesn't have the label of, you know, of a musician and is working a 9-to-5 somewhere, I think that's a great place to start, is the art of actually listening to what people are saying to you. And it happens just, you know, with your family, you know, which people probably wouldn't think about, but, you know, how many conversations have you had, you know, with your sibling where I don't know, you just weren't fully listening? You know, how much more enriching could that conversation be? I also would, I definitely believe that everyone is an artist in some way, shape, or form. Maybe that's not like the occupation that brings them income or something like that, but I think everything that, maybe not everything you do, there are things throughout the day that happen where, if, you know, you can have the mind of an artist, or really I'll say the mind of a creator, and that can be a really rewarding experience as well.
I think people there's a big demand for bringing more art into people's everyday lives. You know, a lot of people are buying instruments. A lot of people are learning languages on the side, or learning about food and cooking, or like people are looking for something else in their lives besides their work, something that they can care about and really take seriously, and also grow as they delve into it. But it's interesting the way you're talking about listening. It's very similar to how Stefan Harris talks about empathy. It's probably a similar idea, and he has come up with like several presentations for taking the lessons he learns on the bandstand about listening, about empathy, and just what did you say earlier? Taking the temperature of the room and your people.
Yeah.
I like that a lot too. And he's been presenting that at corporations, and saying like how that can help build teams, how empathy is the key to cooperation and the key to maybe company atmosphere or something like that. Maybe that's a bit too literal, but I really think these lessons that I've learned on the bandstand with my friends, with you, with both of you, you know, just knowing, like, I don't know, the drummer, his girlfriend broke up with him earlier that day, or like, or less literal, like the pianist, his idol is sitting in the front row, and like what's going through his mind, and then like, I know this guy's been super stressed out lately, and this guy kind of has this like need to prove himself. Like you know all these things about your bandmates, and then you come to the bandstand and you're like taking everybody's temperature, and you're trying to see how you can respond, and that's probably the thing I enjoy most about improvising, because I get more clarity the more I do it. The longer I stay in here, the more I can deduce about the people I'm playing with. And it's why, like, going back to that conversation about, like, we refer to all our artists by their first names, because they're so articulate in how they're feeling. So I think there's a lot to be taken from there, for the average person, how to take the temperature of the people around them, their family, their friends, how to be articulate in what they're feeling, and being emotionally vulnerable, empathetic to other people. It's like, it's all
a lifelong commitment.
It's all music, you know.
That kind of goes back to also what we were saying earlier about meditation and being in the moment as well, because when you're in the moment, you're the happiest, you know, like when you're like doing your work, or if you're like having a conversation with someone. Like, I mean, that's what's really nice actually about being in these podcasts, is that we all like are super in the moment, like listening very closely to, you know, one another. It's a good feeling.
Not on our phones. you know, that's another big part of it too.
That's
like how connected we are there.
Can you imagine if, like, every time you invited a friend to lunch or something, there was this level of like focus and like, yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know if that's
it's been happening actually more often recently.
For you?
Yeah. It's just like, I guess the people that I don't know, if we just take each other seriously and take each other to heart, I think it happens.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think our parents had this issue though with the phones? Like,
yeah, I think it's worse for our parents than it is for us.
No, I'm talking about back when they were our age.
Oh, okay, sure. I mean, there must have been other things that I wasn't living in, you know, the 70s when my parents grew up, but there must have been other distractions. Every generation faces, you know, their own set of challenges and their own set of circumstances.
Yeah.
There was I feel like there's a certain sense of more security you needed to have, though, with like maybe like in relationships, for instance, just because you could only talk to someone like once every day or something, you know, like not like but back before people had cell phones, back before people needed constant communication with one another to check up on each other all the time, you know, and even before then, before cell phones were a thing, you would need to write letters.
Right.
Yeah, so there's like solely more dependency that we have.
I can't remember the last time I wrote a letter. That's sad.
Besides it
Maybe
being
it's
like a
not.
quirk.
Maybe it's fine. I don't know. But I was just thinking about that. Like, wow.
But yeah, I mean, you.
I used to when I was younger.
Oh really?
But
I don't
yeah.
think I've ever written, except maybe like
Wow.
freaking Santa Claus or something.
Sure.
I mean, we talking about smartphones and this connected, but then you read these like Buddhist lessons from like the 3rd century BC, or like Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism and the things that they were talking about as far as presence and how to live, how to think, and it's always been like this, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's greatly exacerbated with modern technology, but the monkey mind and like this whole like anxiety thing that I mentioned earlier was like, it's what we're wired to do for one reason or another. I mean, maybe just constant alertness. Like when we were in the wild, we needed to always be worried about where we're getting our food next, where our next shelter is, how to get the next mate. The ambition was what kept us alive at one point in time.
Exactly.
Probably. That's just my conjecture, not anything. But it is the way we're wired. But yeah, maybe we can shift to some very humble ideas.
Sure.
What was your favorite show in New York?
My favorite show that I've seen, like a concert.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if somebody's ever asked me that. Like, I just feel very. Wow. I'm just like, a lot of emotions are running through me right now. I'm thinking of like all the great things that I've like been so fortunate to be a part of. Let's see. Maybe about a year and a half ago, I saw Stefan Harris and Blackout at the Standard, and
Was that the one I was there?
yeah. I still have. Well, anyway. Anyway, yeah, you were there.
The T-shirt. We still have the T-shirt.
We did, yeah.
And the CD.
Of course, yeah. But that show was so special to me because, for so many reasons. I was at this table with like so many friends, that I was in school with, and other people that I hadn't seen in a while, and they were there, and the music was amazing. I mean, just the way that Stefan brings a group of people together to be there in that one moment and serve the audience is amazing. One is especially great thing about it was that Casey Benjamin played, and Casey played alto. He played soprano. He had a whole array of instruments. The one that really grabbed me though was the vocoder that he used, and the way that they shifted between instrumental music and music that had lyrics was. I just couldn't believe it, like the way that they had seamlessly connected those two worlds in one night. It was just something that I had not thought about at all. I always thought it was like, okay, I'm going to go listen to this singer-songwriter tonight. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to go hear Ambrose tonight, Yeah, just the way that he brought those two worlds together was so inspiring to me. And I think you'll be able to hear it someday because, not everything has lyrics, obviously.
I remember the song that always sticks out to me from that concert and from the album is the "Let's take a trip to the sky and wonder why."
Yeah.
For you're the reason why. Man, those lyrics and something about, like you said, being with those people that were there, and Stefan meaning to me what he means to me and what he means to all of our friends. Yeah, I was just over the moon that night. Truly and honestly, that was just so healing. I miss it. Jazz Standard, come back.
yeah, for sure.
Village Vanguard, don't close ever.
One quick story I have about Stefan.
Please.
Going back to our conversation earlier about I guess about like technique and stuff. I remember talking to Stefan in his office about Jack DeJohnette, because that's one of his favorite drummers, and he was talking to me. He actually gave me, well, actually he talked also about this other recording with Max Roach, Duke Ellington, and Charles Mingus. It's like this trio album they did, and I forget which song he was talking about.
Wait, say the personnel again?
Mingus, Duke Ellington, Max Roach.
Yes, Monkey Jungle.
Yeah, Monkey Jungle.
With the brown cover, super...
Yeah, like a black and white thing, yeah. But yeah, he was...
Money Jungle, was it?
I think...
Money Jungle or
Money
Monkey?
Jungle. I think it's Money Jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Mingus is like... It's sounding like a... Like a twang, like a lot of the time.
Yeah, but he was talking about one song in particular where just for like a couple of courses they were all just like no one was really improvising. They were all just kind of feeding off of each other. And I remember in combo that year, that was my freshman year at MSM, he came into our combo and was talking to the rhythm section after like we played a bit, and he was saying, like, pretend you're in a studio, and if I were to like go on the mixing board and just turn down the soloist, then it should still be interesting. Like there should still be conversation going on between all the rhythm section, you know, like it should be like that could be music in itself, you know, and like always having that conversation and like really being listening and attuned to one another. And I thought that was really cool, and then he showed me that example. But he also was talking about thinking, instead of technical aspects, trying to like what you were saying before about creation, like trying to get into the mind of creation. He was saying take an emotion, like, or even like a natural phenomenon, like water, like water falling, like a waterfall or something. And like whether it be on the trombone or drums or alto sax or something like, or iwi, how would you try to replicate or feel like make someone listening hear water falling on your instrument? And
Dolphin dance.
That's a great lesson.
And Maiden Voyage.
Yeah, it's. I relate Maiden Voyage a lot to like I don't know specifically musically how, but like Debussy as well. Like Debussy, like there's a lot of technical, I think, with like the like those the kind of chord, like the block or the fourths, or I don't know exactly. But yeah, like Debussy, like he has. I think
the pentatonics that he was using.
Yeah.
Elicited that.
Yeah, harmonically, it's related. I think a lot of it can be taken from Debussy, and Debussy has a lot of nature type music, like La Mar and like Nuages, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, there's a lot of like river and like it's interesting why those kind of voicings make us think of certain natural things. You know, I feel like there's a lot more in like scientifically deep as to like why we relate certain things to others, but anyway, yeah, like Stefan, like he really made a good point with that, how to relate it, like, or like even like I think he was saying like angry, like be angry, you know, or be sad, like how would you express this? And that goes directly to like why he can affect you, like I believe how he did, like how does he affect people so deeply then? And like the 1.5, or I don't know what you said, but like you said like in your favorite concert.
Yeah, it might have been an hour. It might have been more. It might between an hour and a half.
No, but I mean like a certain amount of years you've been in New York City. That was the one that stuck out to you.
Got you.
So it's like it's pretty crazy, right? That moment really stuck out in your head, and I believe that being able to access and understand those emotions and how you can really like translate them to people, that's what affects people, even if they don't know it, or it's like a subconscious type of thing. So yeah.
For him, it's super conscious. Like he's methodically studied harmony and the exact pinpointed emotions they elicit more than anybody on the planet, I would contend. I mean, maybe, I don't know, Bach and Beethoven or something, but even they weren't dealing with the type of extended harmony that Stefan has gotten to at this point in time, and like that really shows. And he has such a masterful way of eliciting exactly the emotion, and you feel it. It's articulate is the word. It's like he can literally articulate emotion to you at will, which is pretty fucked up. I just have to say, like, I the amount of just sitting at a piano and just putting it down and just mulling it over until he had the exact word or thing that describes it.
And he has a great TED Talk about that, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
The TED Talk is more about there are no mistakes on the
Oh,
bandstand.
right. That's right.
Which that goes back to empathy, making anything.
Making it all work.
Yeah.
But goals. There's my gap right there,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I mean, it reminds me of what I was listening to Derek Sivers, you know.
The book?
Yeah. Do you know who Derek Sivers is?
You just mentioned him to me the other day, I think.
I probably did. Yeah,
Okay.
almost certainly.
Yeah, it like the idea what you were saying, how Stefan would sit at the piano and just really work out like super. How would you say it? Like just like very like thorough, you know, like almost like anally, I guess, like how each chord is related to each emotion, and like that reminded me of like what Derek Sivers talks about a lot of times is if you have, let's say someone presents to you like, give me a composition or something, and then like just it's got to be like this amount of time and like go, as opposed to give me a composition, it needs to have a banjo player, it needs to have 2 mandolins and 1 splash cymbal, and like each instrument can only play the notes like D, E flat, and G, and all of a sudden, and it has to like give an emotion of like wonder. You know, all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, like now there's a challenge, you know, that's like an inspiration, and like yeah, just like it reminded me of like setting boundaries for yourself and like really like knowing things super well or something, or like having that, and then inspiration comes from that.
Yeah, because this is super intimidating.
It is.
A blank sheet of paper.
Page.
Yes.
Yeah, write something, you know, like, geez. But then if there's like, I don't know, ideas, constraints, people, then that's half the battle.
Yeah.
But sorry.
No, I'm not looking at anything.
Yeah. Do you ever use constraints consciously?
Yes. Yeah, short answer is yes. I try not to, it's kind of like I set the constraints, and then it's like there are no longer, at that point it's not, there's no constraints, it's just I'm working in the framework. I try not to think of it as like, oh, this, you're going to be, you know, limited to this or something like that. But yeah, of course.
Sort of as like a means to gaining inspiration.
Yeah, well, who said that? I don't remember who said this to me, but someone told me, you know, from limitation comes liberation. It's like, you know, once you can focus, you know, a little bit of what's, you know, up here, it makes it easier to start with a cell and then grow it, you know. So.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Saltzman type of idea.
You know, I think it was Chris Rosenberg, actually. Oh,
yeah.
But
man, I miss him. Is he still around MSN?
Chris? Yeah.
I haven't seen him at all.
Sure. He's gotta be. You know what? I haven't seen him either. I should.
Yeah.
Man. It's so weird.
Hope all these figments from our pre-COVID lives are still like doing well. Yeah. So yeah, what is what's the thing right now? Given all this backstory and all this process, obviously there's Sunday, but what would you say is the main work at the moment? Are you in a compositional state, organizational, promotional? What is the work at this moment?
It's so varied, you know. There's
For
so
sure.
much that comes now with being an artist and presenting material to people. I would say that I'm always writing. Probably now more than I have been, like in the past 3 years. Yeah, writing, performing, trying to look for new venues. We were just playing in a park today, so like some of my tunes and some other stuff. Yeah, I'd say the other thing that I'm really trying to get into right now while I can is writing lyrics. And I don't know exactly when like the first time was that I wrote lyrics. I mean, some time in my undergrad, maybe like 2 years ago, something like that. But those lyrics are very different, you know, from what I am thinking about right now. So I would say that's a huge focus is reading and being able to say, like, you know, exactly what's on my mind, being able to paint a picture for someone with words, being able to, you know, like deliver the emotions here. It's intimidating, you know, if you haven't been doing that from a young age.
Can you expand on that a little bit, as like you're trying to articulate your emotions, like to what end? For gratitude or for...
I should probably revise that, because I think that can also be kind of intimidating. It's like, oh, I want to write lyrics that, you know, like illuminate that I'm sad right now. Like, I think the basic idea is there's a story, right? But how can you tell a story without just telling the story? You know, like there are other things at play, and the way that the lyric interacts with the music behind it is something that has like always fascinated me. As far as to what ends, like you know, I want all the lyrics in my songs to somehow come back to gratitude, I think, or at least that's where I am, you know, right now.
Well, I mean, storytelling is its own end.
Absolutely,
That's the most powerful tool we have as human beings. It's how we pass down values, how we pass down our essence. You know, storytelling is, and documenting those stories. That's the work in itself a lot of the time. So, yeah, thank you for doing that. And putting in that work. Are we ready for our fire round, or do you have more?
I think
fire round.
Is that what we'll call it?
Let's go.
90-second power question round.
Should I set the timer for our...
Yes, set it up.
Stopwatch starting now?
90 seconds.
All right.
Now.
Favorite hobby outside of music?
Oh God. Say frisbee. I love frisbee.
Oh, all right.
Childhood celebrity crush.
Bruh.
Can be a man.
90 seconds. 90 seconds. Yeah, it could be, couldn't it? I'm also a huge baseball fan. I'm wearing a Mets shirt right now. Well, now I'm stuck there. I guess. I was gonna like, David Wright was always like somebody that I just like looked up to in like the best way. I was like, wow, this person like loves his family.
All right, we're at 50.
Baseball,
We're at 50.
so,
Favorite,
okay, go on.
Favorite childhood TV show?
God. SpongeBob.
A favorite comedian?
I love Bill Burr. I think Bill Burr is hilarious. Yeah.
I asked you this last time. Your favorite food?
Favorite food? I'll go pizza. I like making pizza.
Nice.
Oh.
Dude.
10 seconds
Oh.
more. Movie?
Favorite movie? Oh God.
Oh, you said the Enchanted or something last time.
I said Coco last time. I would never
Oh,
say
yeah.
Enchanted. What? No. Yeah, if you haven't seen Coco, you should see Coco. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie.
All right.
Sorry.
We're overtime. Thank you guys so much. Can you do the honors while I head to the computers?
Yeah, thank you guys again for checking out this podcast. If you made it this far, we definitely went super in depth and got to hear a lot from Joe. So I'm like super appreciative that we had this nice conversation with
Yeah.
Alston. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And be sure to check out this Sunday 3 p.m. Joe with his group Amani and Stefano. I'm super excited to check it out. It's gonna be like super new stuff that like no one's heard before.
It's true.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. So yeah, please tune in then, and thank you guys for checking out the Brave Sound podcast. We'll be back soon with another guest. All right.